Hello and welcome to a Thursday night showdown show. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by the showdown virgin himself, Cody Main, for a Mike White versus Carson Wentz showdown. Cody, good evening.
Another showdown, another double-digit spread, a couple of interesting quarterbacks to dissect here. I'm excited to get into it.
I think one of the interesting things about this slate particularly is normally it'd be like, oh, whatever, Mike White, he's drawing dead. Mike White threw for 405 yards and 3 touchdowns last week. So there's at least something in the back of everybody's mind that Mike White at least has a ceiling, right? If it was some other dust ball quarterback, everybody would just assume, or if it was Mike White without any history, everybody would just assume that he's drawing dead, right? So I do think that it brings in some intrigue to this slate that at least we know Mike White has some upside, right?
Yeah, I agree. And just the way that he got there last week with a 4.2 ADOT, so much yak from his receivers, especially with the way that the game script sets up, at least from what we're projecting, going to be a lot of pass volume for them in negative game script and could bring along with him a couple wide receivers. So yeah, definitely an interesting slate and much more compelling with him actually showing a pulse last week.
Cody, did you forget to put in your virgin price or your outcome distributions?
Yeah, can you believe that? Can you believe that? I just realized that. Oh no.
I can't.
I was getting so much shit. I was getting so much shit for those graphs this week that I just punted on the idea.
Okay, let's talk about the construction part here. You have projected the most likely 4-2. Again, the first number refers to the favorites. So most likely the field playing 4-2 and 3-3, 4-2 Colts, 3-3, 3 from each team. You think is most likely? Do you see any leverage spots here on this slate?
Yeah, first of all, I feel really good about where these projections are at, just with the way the pricing sets up on the slate and with the options at both the high and low end on the Colts. I think that they're going to be overwhelmingly popular. Obviously, as double-digit favorites, we would expect that. Probably getting sick of me harping on this, but I think 2-4 is pretty strong again tonight, especially, like I said, with the way that Mike White likes to get his pass catchers involved, which we'll talk plenty about. I could see lineups that carry 3 Jets pass catchers or 3 Jets skill position players that don't even have Mike White in them, just with the PPR specific type scoring that we expect them to rack up if they do fall behind. So I think starting there's just so many paths for Jets lineups to get there, even if the Colts cover tonight, because you're going to see so much pass volume.
All right. Well, let's start at the quarterback position then. And, I think the league didn't have a lot of tape on Mike White. I mean, nobody really knew what to expect from Mike White. Now we know what this guy wants to do. I mean, his ADOT, as you mentioned, was absolutely pathetic. I mean, he didn't even try to go down the field. If you know that, it's really easy to defend, right? Like, you can defend Jamison Crowder and Michael Carter underneath reasonably easy. Now, we know the Colts play the zone scheme, which oftentimes can lead to a lot of short catches anyways. But as Silva's been harping on, I mean, the Bengals are one of the worst tackling defenses in the NFL. They didn't make no adjustments to the way Mike White was playing. Colts have all this tape now, and they're a much better tackling team. So I think the Colts will be ready for Mike White this time, and I think that will make a difference. So we have a bet on Mike. We have a couple bets on Mike White unders. Actually, we have under Jamison Crowder yards, and we have under on Mike White pass attempts, which you can get there in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of skeptical that Mike White can do it again. Especially we knew Mekhi Becton was out. Now George Fant, I believe, is out also. Like, I mean, I'm not surprised the Colts are favored by 10. Let's put it that way. So I guess I'm probably in the camp that Mike White can't do it again. That doesn't mean he won't be part of the optimal, I guess, but I'd be looking for a fade on Mike White. I don't know. What do you think about White and then either quarterback and captain?
Yeah, starting there, neither quarterback and captain for me tonight, just with the way that the Colts offense is so concentrated around their stars. Carson Wentz obviously offers no mobility, and then same, opposite story for Mike White with the low ADOT and his pass catchers more likely to beat him out given the PPR scoring format on DraftKings. But really no interest in either quarterback tonight at captain. Obviously, they're going to be integral parts of our lineup construction as flex just because of the floor that they both provide. But yeah, to your point on Mike White, it's going to be tough. This Colts defense is athletic. I think if they welcome those short area targets, I think that they're, as Silva has mentioned, I think they'll be able to tackle and wrap up and prevent some of those big yak opportunities that we saw last week. But if they force him to go deep, if they're squatting on routes and trying to force or bait Mike White into some of these deep throws, I don't know if he's capable of completing them. So, like you said, I think there's so many paths for him to fail tonight. But the field kind of agrees with us, right? So I think that there is still some leverage in just being overweight Mike White and this Jets offense.
Yeah, exactly. And so in those 4-2 lineups, 4-2 Jets lineups, you're going to have Mike White in there, right? In the 4-2 Jets lineups you like?
Yeah, I think if I'm going four, especially having, talking about four offensive players, not including kicker defense, I would. I think there's some ways you can get there with three Jets without Mike White. But yeah, if you're going four, I would not have four skill position players without Mike White.
Okay. The Carson Wentz thing, and maybe we can talk about this more when we get to Michael Pittman, but I mean, he does not have a lot of good weapons right now outside of his Bible study brother, Michael Pittman. And so we can get there in a minute, but I think a lot of people are going to have Wentz Pittman like stacks. Like that is going to be like one of the most, if not the most popular stack, right? So what do you think about Wentz and playing him with or without Pittman?
Yeah, I think he's going to be super popular just because the salaries work out. I don't think people are even that excited about him. Wentz and flex and then Pittman at captain is probably going to be the most popular stack of the night, if not just jamming in Jonathan Taylor, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think there's some leverage spots if you want to play Wentz as your flex just for the safety, the floor that the quarterback position offers. I think you can get a little bit different with some of the guys that you pair him with or some of the guys that you captain around him. So I will have plenty of Wentz flex exposure tonight, but not going there as captain.
Yeah, I mean, DraftKings did a reasonable job raising Michael Pittman's price to 10,200. He was only 5,300 on the main slate last week. They get him up to 10,200 here. I mean, I'm not sure how much salary matters on this slate as much, but at least they got Pittman up above 10K, so that's good. Let's go to running back. I mean, I really like Jonathan Taylor last week. It was such a big game for them against Tennessee. I thought they would extend him and also like the Marlon Mack stuff where they're like showcasing him for a trade or whatever. Now the trade deadline is gone. There's no reason to do that anymore. It's just so obvious that like Jonathan Taylor, very few running backs actually make a difference. I actually think Jonathan Taylor might make a difference. Like he might actually be worth like a half point or maybe like 0.7 or something like that to the spread. He's just such a freak. Pretty good spot for him here. Again, field obviously agrees, 78% total ownership, over 30%. In captain, we're projecting, 24.5% we're projecting in captain. So how are you thinking about using Jonathan Taylor tonight? Because I do think that's one of the keys to this slate.
Yeah, just an absolute no-brainer top overall play type of spot for him. You talk about it from a usage perspective, just absolutely the Colts riding him into the ground right now. And they're probably dead in the AFC South, at least in the betting markets, it looks that way. But now with the Derrick Henry injury opening things up for Tennessee, the Colts coaching staff certainly still has to think they're live to win the division. So I expect them to ride him once again, 10.5 point favorites at home, handling 65% of the backfield's rushing attempts, obviously getting all the high value touches. And then this Jets defense is just coughing up points to opposing running backs. So I definitely expect him to be the most owned captain tonight, as folks don't really love the pocket passers at captain, even though Wentz projects pretty well there. So I will likely be around that or over that in large field tournaments, but there's really few holes to poke in Jonathan Taylor's outlook tonight.
Yeah, 24.5% projected captain ownership for us on Jonathan Taylor, 14.1% on Michael Pittman. On the other side, I guess we should stay on the Colts for a second. Naheem Heinz actually has like, I don't want to say a ceiling, but he's like can find his way into optimals only in game flows, I think, where the Colts fall behind, right? Because like he barely plays now when they're winning. And so it's hard for me to find Naheem Heinz in the optimal unless the Colts get behind. So like maybe in these lineups that you want to play Mike White or I don't know, but like I think Naheem Heinz can at least mix in if you can tell yourself a story that they get behind. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, and quick shout out to Dwayne McFarland, who wrote the utilization report for us last year, and he's over at PFF now. But he mentioned 94% of Indianapolis 2-minute snaps going to Heinz, 45% along down and distance. So to your point, if he's going to get there, it's likely going to be as a pass catcher, and it's likely going to be in negative game script. DraftKings actually, I think, did a great job of where he's priced at because he's not going to be used hardly at all. That $5,600 price tag is pretty tough to get on top of for him, as little volume as he's seeing. But if he gets in this negative game script with some of these 4-2 or 2-4, I should say, Jets lineups that we're talking about, I love using Heinz there as direct leverage off of Jonathan Taylor and direct leverage off of, kind of consensus game script. So I think we might even be high on his ownership, honestly, a little bit. I know people love the name still, but the usage hasn't been there. He doesn't project very well, but I'll definitely be over Heinz in large field tournaments.
On the Jets side, I mean, everybody's excited about Michael Carter coming off of a 30 ball on DraftKings on the main slate. I mean, Mike White's attempted 77 passes this season or in his NFL career. 23 of them have been to Michael Carter. Like it's unimaginable. So obviously on DraftKings, that's going to make you project really, really well. DraftKings has Michael Carter's price up to 8,600. I mean, Michael Carter was one of our favorite like zero RB picks in the preseason. I got a little bit of cold feet on it when Tevin and Ty Johnson were playing ahead of him. But now it's very clear that like Michael Carter is their best back by a wide margin. Ty Johnson's, I don't want to say he's playing as small a role as Naheem Heinz is playing, but Ty Johnson is only mixing in like passing, or not even on passing, just like mixing in like change of pace type stuff. Just like give Michael Carter a break. Tevin Coleman, we expect to be inactive for this game if that's not already been announced. So yeah, I mean, at these ownership percentages that we're projecting, only 9.8% captain. I bet if you told everybody in the field that, a lot of people would be like, oh man, that's great leverage there. Michael Carter, captain. So what do you think about Carter and Ty Johnson?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get excited about Carter. I mean, like legit bell cow back usage, 72.5% of the team's rushing attempts being used in the red zone around the goal line. Obviously, the target share from check down captain Mike White is incredible. So I think the price is a little low. If we're right on ownership and he's 9% in captain, I love getting on top of that. I think that he can fit in any sort of build, because if the Colts rush defense is stout and prevents him from racking up yards on the ground, then hopefully he's utilized as a pass catcher. So I can use him alongside Mike White. I can use him in game scripts where I project the Jets to win, where they're projecting to play from behind and he gets peppered with check down targets. So I think if we're right on his 9% captain ownership, then I want to be overweight that.
While we're talking about running backs, Josh asked thoughts on Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Heinz in the same lineup. So, from like a rational, logical perspective, I don't think this makes a lot of sense. But on Showdown, you got a galaxy brain and some crazy shit. Like we've seen a lot of two, maybe not a lot, but we've seen a decent amount of two running back lineups from the same team end up in optimals. What do you think about playing Taylor and Heinz together?
Yeah, it gets tough because you've got 11.6 price tag on Taylor, and then you've got a 5.6 price tag on Heinz. You're just tying up a lot of salary in that backfield. And then if they get way ahead, which if
very deep at wide receiver anyways this season. So now we get into a spot where like we expect the three wide receiver set to be Pittman, Pascal, Ashton Dulin. I do like Michael Strachan's talent from like a team preseason perspective. We played him a few times. I don't know if you think he gets in there or how much he gets in there. We have him with a far lower base projection than Dulin, just because Dulin played so much last week and Strachan didn't play at all. What do you think about Colts wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, this price on Ashton Dulin's kind of frustrating. He's a stone minimum on DraftKings, and mostly because he's just had two bad box scores back to back, with Hilton and Paris Campbell dealing with injuries. But he's been targeted 4 times in the past 2 games. I think he's kind of just an obvious lock up the stone minimum salary in cash games, so you can pay up for all the studs. And I think that ownership is going to carry over a little bit into tournaments as well. So I definitely want to be underweight that. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Michael Pittman. I think, no brainer, alpha type usage, being involved in the red zone and the goal line. I don't think there's anyone on the Jets that can really stick with him. But Zach Pascal's pricing is actually pretty interesting. Priced at 6,600. You're going to see a lot of stars and scrubs builds tonight with people jamming in Taylor and Wentz, and Michael Carter even kind of fits that build. And Pittman, I think these like 4,500 to 7K guys all go a little bit under-owned. And Pascal is going to be an every down player. He's a big dude. Has been targeted quite a bit in the red zone and near the goal line as well. And I think that offers pretty good leverage if you want to play, a popular Carson Wentz. I think that Pascal offers pretty good leverage off of the cheaper Dulin and the stud in Pittman.
Yeah, Pascal's red zone role is certainly legit. I guess no hope for our boy from the preseason Strachan, huh?
I think it's pretty thin. I had QT in there earlier. I think with him not being called up, I think he ran 4 routes last week. I don't know how much 3 wide receiver sets they want to play. I don't know how much he'll mix in. Definitely, if you're MMEing and you need a sprinkle of some of these low end guys like Strachan and Desmond Patman, who may be active tonight, you're going to want some shares of those guys in 150 runs.
Last game, the Jets, I believe, played 6 wide receivers, if I'm not mistaken. And that was with Corey Davis being out. So Corey Davis was out. They were like, screw it. We're going to give Jeff Smith some burn. We're going to give Barrios in there, Mims, Cole, Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder. Like, I kind of wanted to bet the under on all these guys. Like, we have the under on Crowder. I kind of wanted to bet the under on Elijah Moore too, although we're showing him with a better projection than his line. I kind of wanted to bet the under on Denzel Mims as well. If you're going to rotate this many guys and we think Mike White is going to regress sharply, it's hard for me to get excited. I know people like Crowder. I like Crowder. I think he's a very good player. He obviously fits exactly what Mike White wants to do. 36% ownership here, though, seems about right to me. I mean, I don't know, man. What do you think about all these Jets guys?
Yeah, the price tags on some of these lower tier guys like Keelan Cole and Denzel Mims, just based off of how much they played last week, the underlying usage was pretty strong, even though the targets weren't really there. The box scores weren't really there for guys outside of Crowder and Michael Carter. But I think the price tags on these guys are going to force them into lineups. And, a guy like Keelan Cole and a guy like Denzel Mims, they probably factor into your cash lineup as well, just based off of the raw projection and the cheap price tag. I think Crowder is going to be pretty popular because that salary does fit with tonight's build. And he's kind of got the most projectable volume of the group. But another guy, a talent that we were on this offseason, Elijah Moore, kind of fits the same mold of Zach Pascal, where he's just going to fall in that range where he doesn't end up being too popular. And, if you want to bet on talent, he didn't run a whole lot of routes last week, but he was targeted 6 times. I think that's pretty strong. If his routes come up this week, I think he's a guy that can get on top of that price tag at low ownership. So I like playing more over some of these other guys that project for more ownership.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my concern is always that Elijah Moore's best position is Jamison Crowder's best position also, and also that's Braxton Barrios' position too. So like, if you think that Braxton Barrios, like the only way he gets there is if one of those guys gets hurt, I think. So I don't know, man. It's getting thin with some of these bottom Jets guys for sure. Let's go to tight end here. Tight end is going to be, I wish Mo Alley-Cox was running more routes. I mean, Mo Alley-Cox only runs a route on about half of what a normal tight end would do, as Silva put it in matchups. Still, major touchdown appeal. Popping in the PSM is Mo Alley-Cox. I just wish they'd use him more, man. I don't know if this is the spot where they do it, but they don't really seem too keen on it. Let's talk about both sides, actually, Jets and Colts tight ends.
Yeah, the Colts coaching staff is just doing like this cat and mouse game back and forth with Doyle and Mo Alley-Cox. We finally thought, I think heading into the 49ers game, that Mo Alley-Cox had kind of passed him up in terms of routes and snaps played and things like that. And then last week, Doyle played more snaps, ran more routes, but Mo Alley-Cox was still out targeting him 4-2. So definitely, if you're betting on talent now that the prices are where they're at, where Doyle is now priced up to $4,600 after being $800 last week, I would prefer Alley-Cox there. Almost have no interest in Jack Doyle at $4,600 with some of the other options we have. No, Jet side, it's equally ugly, and they don't have the Mo Alley-Cox type talent. So mostly avoiding that position as well, just outside of large field tournament dart throws.
All right. The age-old question, is defense and kicker viable on this slate? And if so, why? And if not, can we just ignore these garbage?
Yeah, I think we might be a little bit light on Colts DST projection. They're fairly cheap. Obviously, it's Mike White, 10.5 point favorites. I think that ownership might get steamed a little bit. And, that's unfortunate because usually when these defenses are in good spots is when we want to use them, but they tend to be over-owned. So don't have a whole lot of interest there. We know Carson Wentz is good for at least one boneheaded play a week. So actually a $3,000 Jets defense that projects for 5% ownership makes more sense than a Colts defense that is 4 or 5 times his own. So if I'm using these guys, it would be sparingly in large field tournaments and kickers, mixing them in. But I think we have so many cheap guys this week, skill position players that project better and have clearer paths to upside that I'll have fairly minimal ownership allocated towards the kicker position.
I'm glad to see that Little Tunchi never misses a show. Shout out Little Tunchi. He says, FanDuel, baby. Yeah. He wants to know Jonathan Taylor or Wentz straight up, regardless of price. Let me see what we have here on FanDuel. But what do you think about that one, Wentz or JT straight up?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I haven't even thought about FanDuel. So I would defer to projections. It looks like Jonathan Taylor has higher overall projections, $500 cheaper. I don't know how much salary factors in on tonight's slate on FanDuel, but you're chasing touchdowns. The spot couldn't be better for Taylor. I think I would prefer Taylor straight up, regardless of price.
Oh, Taylor for me for sure. Yeah, I mean, come on, little Tunchi. Okay, you guys can get some questions in. We will take questions that you guys have hopefully about tonight's showdown slate. We got about 5 minutes here before we need to plant the old flags. I'm trying to come up with a flag plant that isn't massively owned on this slate.
For what it's worth, Mark, who handles projections on the back end, just said that Marlon Mack is inactive.
Ooh.
So little tiny boost for both the Colts backs.
Yeah, I mean, like, what did they think they were going to get from Marlon Mack? Like, Marlon Mack's going on the trade block, guys. who wants to give up anything for? I think he's a fine player, but like, it's the running back. Like, I could find a dude to, whatever. I don't need to do the running back right now. Okay. Who's going to be the dart throw tonight? All phase auto repair. I don't want you to do a flag plan here, but any dart throws. Mine was going to be Strachan, but it seems like he might not even play.
No, I kind of like your call of Strachan. If you want to take Strachan, I mean, how darty are we talking? I need to look at ownership projections again real quick here and see. I imagine we're thinking guys under like 10%. Man, it gets really thin really quick. Yeah, I think Strachan's probably the best there. Braxton Barrios, as much as they rotated through receivers, could be one of those guys that racks up a few catches on 1 or 2 series. So someone like that would make sense if you're looking for a real dart.
I'll say this: if the Colts only have 2 running backs up for this game now, is that right? Because if that's right, and Jonathan Taylor were to get hurt, I mean, Naheem Heinz, would have a major path. But yeah, we haven't projected for 20%, so I guess he's not a dart throw. But yeah, is what it is. This is showdown, boys.
I mean, if they're up big, do they just run Taylor into the ground, or do they start mixing in Heinz late?
Yeah, like they haven't shown a huge willingness to like give Jonathan Taylor 25 touches like ever. So, I think like ideally they don't want him touching the ball more than 18, 19, 20 times. If they were winning by a lot, I think Heinz mixes in. Yeah. Chris says he has his New York friend saying that Mike White is the next Brady and the Pats knocked him out and now history will repeat itself. Yeah. So basically what you're saying is that Zach Wilson is dusted by Mike White. See it, believe it when I see it. Kyle Granson was a preseason prospect I thought had some talent. I don't know, man. He's hardly played. And is he the best leverage off Doolin?
I think you're calling Strachan is the best leverage off of Doolin. If Doolin's going to fail at $200, it's because he's not playing as much as we're projecting. And in that case, I would expect more Strachan or Desmond Patton.
Yeah, Kyle chimes in with the salmon take. I mean, can you guys believe when I was like really being hard on Mims's role in the preseason, all these Jets fans were like, you don't get it, man. He lost 30 pounds because of the bad salmon. And that was 3 months ago. I mean, that was 3 months before they were saying that. Like, how long can bad salmon last for? Joey's going with the Zach Pascal flag plant. Okay.
Oh, baby.
Ryan Griffin, 210-2 incoming. I could see it. They had Heinz close out the Niners game. Good point. Denzel Mims or Keelan Cole straight up. Any takes there?
I lean Keelan Cole, and I don't think the $400 matters. Playing around with optimals a little bit before the show, like if you're talking about cash or large field tournament, I think I prefer Keelan Cole straight up.
Yeah. I'm looking at our optimal now. It actually doesn't have either of those guys, but I would probably mess with that a little bit. It has Badgley in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Do the projections change? Little Tunchi. Do the projections for Taylor change with Mack inactive? It'll be very, very slight. We had Marlon Mack for a very, very, very small rush share anyways. So, yeah. But yes, our projections always update with the news. Scott's a little bit late. Do we believe in Doyle or Croft? Just recap for him your thoughts on Doyle and Croft.
I mean, just super large field tournament dart throws. I don't think you need to go there in small field single entry. Definitely not cash. But if you're trying to mix it up and get unique in large field tournaments, these are the type of things that you have to do, type of guys you have to play.
KZ, Little Tunchi, yes, already had his segment. We went down to FanDuel already for Little Tunchi. Dion Jackson is up. Could he pull a Gore this week. Yeah, those are your Chiefs, man. Do you know what happened with the Gore situation with the Chiefs? I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but
no, I was
really
so
wild.
bummed to see that he was getting run, because usually we have those guys, whether it's for 0.5 DraftKings points or whatever, but usually they're in there. And I know some subscribers, myself, will get even just a small sprinkle in an MME run, but we had zero. We had nothing for Derek Gore. I hadn't seen him projected to play at all. So that was kind of a bummer. We will have Dion Jackson in there.
Yeah. Ryan says it's Denzel Mims night. James is going with a Jeff Smith flag plant. My God. Okay.
Oh, baby.
All right. We better get to the flag plants. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. All right. I'll give you the honors here, Cody. Flag plant on tonight's slate.
All right, I'm going with Joey. He shouted out Zach Pascal. That's where I'm going tonight. I want to get off the board. Whether it's captain or flex, I think he's going to be extremely low owned in both. With Hilton and Paris Campbell out, he's playing like 95% of snaps, running around on 90% of dropbacks. I think the red zone and goal line role is legit. You could see a 20 to 25% target share. Don't think the Jets have anybody in their secondary that I'm too concerned about. So give me a sub 20% owned Zach Pascal as direct leverage off one of the slate's highest owned players.
I like it. All right. I am going to go with Mr. Naheem Heinz. I was thinking about it anyways before the Marlon Mack news. I think with the Marlon Mack news now, we might even see Naheem Heinz play a little bit more, maybe get an extra 1 or 2 carries. And look, there's some outcomes where the Colts fall behind. There's some outcomes where the Colts get into a 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. There's some outcomes where they get into a 2-minute drill at the end of the game. And so in those outcomes, you can see like J.D. McKissic type stuff happening for Naheem Heinz. I think that I'd be willing to play him with Taylor because I just love Taylor so much in this spot. But if you really want to get freaky and try to win $1 million, Heinz lineups without Taylor, and we never wish injury on anyone, but, that's how you win $1 million. And so, Naheem Heinz for me, the flag plant of the slate. All right. Keith says, I have V-neck confidence since I upgraded Bush up. Buddy, I've been wearing V-necks, max chest hair exposed for at least 5 years now, okay? KZ, one last take. He wants to get in here. Ty Johnson and Michael Carter combo together sounds juicy. What do you think about that? Playing those two running backs?
Yeah,
together?
that one might be, well, I guess with Mack out now, but that one might be as good as the Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack combo. A little bit cheaper, equal amount of share of the backfield attempts. So love that one from KZ.
Francis says he's trying to play Mike White as his captain and in all the flex pots, but DK is not letting him. Please help. Okay, the Mike White love is out of control. I'm really curious to see how he plays tonight, actually. That's going to do it for this Showdown slate. By the way, if you have not subscribed yet to Established Run, we are running a sale, $149.99 on the subscribe page right now for the rest of the season. It includes everything we do in NFL, access to the Discord, props, everything we do for the rest of the season through the Super Bowl for $149.99. For Cody, for producer Adam, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.